Hey, you guys, welcome back. I've got a video here that was actually subscriber suggested. So I do listen. I do see them. Not always, but I did check this one, and I looked it up and found the one you were talking about. But it is from First, and it is why London is insanely well designed. And I'm excited to check this out because we watched a video not too long ago about the Great Fire and basically kind of the aftermath of it and how they had initially wanted to redesign um, the streets so it was more kind of American. How you'll find cities that are blocks, 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 and it's kind of straight. Um, but because of kind of the property ownership, it would have created a huge headache and mess, and they didn't even have the money to kind of buy up the plots that were there. So they ended up just sticking to what was already in the plans. So I want to see this one because it's a very good follow up to that of like maybe why that was a good thing to stick to, I guess. But I will link this video in the description along with links to Patreon, how you could support the channel here on YouTube. If you like a video, you can always do a gift or a super and kind of goes as a thank you. Can also use those to suggest videos that I might be able to get to sooner than later. But let's go ahead and jump into this video.
This is a map of the London Tube and Rail. If you've never seen it before, it may seem like a bunch of confusing lines crammed together, but in reality, it displays just about all of London's public transportation systems. Each colour identifies a different line of transport, and obviously, there's tons of them. But the ones we are going to be focusing on are all these solid coloured lines you see here, which represent the London Underground lines. These orange lines here, which are used to identify the London Overground trains lines, these lime green lines that represent the trams, the blue lines here, which represent the Docklands Light Railway Tracks, or DLR for short, and finally all of these different coloured lines here, which represent the National Rail. These all basically make up the core of how London functions. I know it's a lot, but London is a global city home to almost 10 million people, and when you also consider the tourists from around the world and visitors from other parts of the UK, the numbers are even higher, so it's very needed. Yet, despite this, the Transport for London, or TfL for short, which basically owns most of London's public transportation systems, is still ranked very highly worldwide in terms of efficiency. But to understand how they all work in unison, I think the easiest way is by splitting everything up a bit, between the north and south of the River Thames. The reason for this is because both sides were not created equally, which we'll get into in a bit. North of the Thames is heavily serviced by the London Underground, also famously known as the Tube. First opened in 1863, the London Underground was the world's first underground transportation system and serves as a shining beacon to London's envious and ambitious infrastructure design. The Underground is a rapid transit system serving 5 million people every single day, making it one of the world's busiest metro systems. It splits into 11 different lines, serving primarily the Greater London area with some parts of Buckinghamshire, Essex, and Hertfordshire as well. For the most part, the Tube is extremely efficient and quick as well.
Really
Take
cool.
for example the Victoria line. Even during peak periods, the train runs every 100 seconds. That's basically another train lined up before you've even left the platform. All these lines feed into 272 different stations throughout London. And surprisingly, the longest distance between two stations is just 6.3 kilometers. That is between Chalfont and Latimer and Chesham on the Metropolitan line. It's designed so that no matter where you are, you'll be able to catch the Tube. I mean, that's the whole point of public transportation, right? Overall, the entire Tube network spans 250 miles, making it the 7th largest metro system in the world. But obviously, that's not enough for London, and that's where the many options come in. Just like there's the London Underground, there's also the London Overground, a suburban rail network that provides routes that are more of a ring around central London rather than through it, bypassing the craziness of the core. It's the perfect complement to the Underground.
So obviously London is a massive city, and I don't know enough about soccer to know, and I do now know some rugby stuff, but I don't know where these like sports stadiums are located. when there's like a huge sporting event or something like that going on, how are they like insanely crowded to the point that you can't it's hard to get on and off of them? Because I know like in Charlotte when we would go up we would take a transit and it's nowhere like this. No, not even close to the scale of it, but there's like one line they goes up pretty much a straight line, but a lot of times when we would go to games, I would park, a ways from the city, and we would take that up. But I remember on several occasions of coming out of those games, and you couldn't even get back on the sub. Like it was just packed full. It was you'd have to get on it at like the first stop to even have an opportunity to get on it. We would end up actually, I think we ended up having to use Uber or Lyft or something like that to even get back to the car on one of the occasions.
And has the next largest annual ridership with 189 million people annually, with 113 stations on 9 different lines. The Docklands Light Railway serves as yet another option for transport, mostly north of the River Thames as well. It's a somewhat niche system, serving primarily East London and more specifically the Docklands area, but there's still more than 100 million people that ride on this automated light rail system annually, and that's because it provides a direct connection between London's 2 major financial districts, Canary Wharf and the City of London. This makes it the busiest light rail system in the entire UK. Now, before I get into London's public transportation that's south of the River Thames, I actually want to talk about buses, because, well, they are used heavily on both sides of the river and are actually the most used mode of transportation overall in London. Their bus system is one of the most extensive in the entire world. The city has a fleet of over 9,000 iconic red buses, and the second largest zero-emission bus fleet in Europe, only behind Moscow. About 6 million passengers make their journeys on one of the 7,000 bus rides happening every day, being delivered to over 700 different routes. That adds up to a ridership of over 2 billion people annually. Just to put that into perspective, if you combine the annual ridership of New York City, Los Angeles, and Paris's bus network, you'd get roughly the same amount of passengers as London's. It's a relatively cheap system too. Take for instance the bus fare. A full day of bus-only travel costs a maximum of $5.50. Or even if you need it...
I guess it depends where you are. I'll say it's gross, and I know I've been on some good... We don't usually ride the bus. Unless like we're out of town somewhere, and I think honestly the last time I did it was over 10 years ago in Vegas, and they were really, really nice. And it was a really good way to get from like the Strip down to like old Vegas, where like, if you think of like Sinatra and Elvis and stuff like that, that's kind of old Vegas. It wasn't on the Strip. So, like, it was really nice in Vegas. And the weird thing about Vegas, though, is it's kind of an outlier because you think about how many people are there and they're partying and how you would kind of think, oh, it's going to be gross. But they did such a good job of, like, by the time you got up in the morning, it was just, you're out in like kind of the desert. So the sun's shining, it's gorgeous outside. And they're cleaning up before you even wake up in most occasions. So you'd come out and it was really spotless. And they did an excellent job with the transit there. But in most places, regular little cities and stuff like it, the transit's kind of nasty, to be honest.
For just an hour, you can pay less than $2 for something called the Hopper Fare, letting you travel on unlimited buses or trams for free within 1 hour of touching in for your first journey. And thanks to things like the London congestion charge, which charges all private vehicles being driven in this zone here in central London $17 per day of use, it's that much better a service. In the first year of its implementation alone, the zone had a 30% reduction in traffic congestion and a 30% increase in average speeds, while bus passenger numbers rose 38%. It's something that, while amazing, not many countries use it. New York City, for example, which in my opinion is very comparable to London in many ways, doesn't have one. At least not yet. Anyways, like I said earlier, south of the River Thames and South London overall
something
is a
I think they're
completely
talking
different world
about
to what works up north. Take for instance the
Of course,
London
this
Underground.
was
I
3
mean,
years
yeah,
ago.
it technically does go south of the Thames with lines like the Victoria and Jubilee, but it barely has a presence there. Of the 272 stations connected to the Underground, only 31 of them are in South London. This is the case for most transportation systems up north. They just don't have a real presence in this area. But of course, there's reasons for that. The first being geology. North of the River Thames has perfect soil for tunneling, whereas the south of it had waterlogged clay, which made it not very coherent and way more difficult to tunnel through. Then there's the matter of South London being less populated, and therefore cheaper to build through above ground. Look at this map of London from 1794. You'll see the city grew mostly north and west of the Thames. So the tube was built where most people were and where it was needed most. That's where the most opportunity was, after all. Besides, by the time the London Underground began being built, the South already had an extensive suburban rail system after being carved up by many private railway companies. So it wasn't needed as much as well. As a result, millions of Londoners living south of the Thames rely on suburban rails much more than anything else. And that's where the National Rail comes in. Simply put, the National Rail is a cooperative, unincorporated association of a network of train operating companies, and together they form Great Britain's intercity train network, which you can see here. Since the Underground is barely a thing south of the river, the National Rail forms the bulk of public transport throughout the neighbourhoods there. There's also the London trams. Although the light rail trams primarily serve Croydon and its surrounding areas, they still have almost 30 million annual riders. Now, the final piece to this transportation puzzle is the Elizabeth Line. Although still extremely new and not yet fully operational, it's a commuter and intercity line that connects the Great Western Main Line and Great Eastern Main Line via some central London stations. Its importance cannot be understated. Many journey lines will be slashed with this line, such as going from Woolwich to Whitechapel will now be down to 9 minutes from around 25 to 30 minutes, and Farringdon to Canary Wharf will now just take 10 minutes, more than 50% quicker than the previous journey time. Broadly speaking, the Elizabeth Line will make journeys a lot quicker and take a lot of pressure off the Central Line,
up and
one of the
running
tube's
now?
busiest lines.
Because this was from
journeys made
2022.
by public transportation systems account for 37% of all of London's journeys, making it the most widely used method of getting somewhere in the city. It's also important to realize that all of these transportation systems, which I've talked about, are all connected. The TfL is responsible for the tube, overground, DLR, buses, and trams, just to name a few. Or in image form, these routes are what TfL controls. Because of this, they all complement each other insanely well. Like, for example, the tube and DLR have a number of interchanges between their systems, and together they make up 40% of the journeys between inner and outer London. Everything is also integrated via TfL's Oyster card, a credit card-sized electronic ticket which offers almost unlimited use on almost all of London's public transportation systems for a relatively cheap price, depending on the times you use it. Although this form of payment has slowly been declining due to the rise of contactless credit cards, it's still used over 12 million times each year. Now, as great as London's public transportation is, it's not your only option. And no, I'm not talking about private cars, which is, to be fair, another option, but rather walking. Walking makes up 24% of all London journeys, and it's actually an amazing city for this. London is ranked the 5th most walkable city in the world, and I believe it's due to London being one of
That's one thing, like, I have always wanted to live in a city where you can kind of walk around and not have to. I hate driving. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. And like most of the US is just not walkable. Like New York is one of the few places, maybe like if you're in like a larger city like that, yes, like Chicago. I think Pittsburgh's fairly walkable depending how far. Because it's a pretty good size too, but like most places just aren't designed for that. Like it would be very difficult.
one of the oldest major cities in the world, so of course it wasn't made for cars. What I mean is, contrary to the title of this video, London wasn't really designed. I mean, it was, kinda, and especially after World War II due to the Germans bombing the city, but London really just grew naturally over almost 2,000 years. So all in all, London is an easy city for getting around. And while there can be problems with delays or TfL's lack of funding, which to be honest would take a whole nother video to explain, it's done amazing with what it's got. Thank you for watching.
That was a fantastic video. Great suggestion from you guys. I enjoyed that a lot. Learned a lot. I wouldn't have. I mean, I know obviously like girls' double deckers are kind of what I think a lot of people think of when they think of like England, especially London. Um, because it's not really something we have here that you're gonna see every day. I'm sure they have them in like New York and stuff like that, but it's more of like a novelty. Um, but knowing like Euro's like underground transit system, like I just would have assumed that that was where most of the transit uh, kind of population was. But that's interesting. It must mean that that's clean and well priced. I think here it's well priced, but it's just it's just gross. Like most people kind of look down on it for sure. But I enjoyed that one a lot. I hope you guys did too. If there's another video similar or not, just something else, and you want to see me react to it, drop it in the comments, stick it in the community, and I will see it and add it to the list. But yeah, thanks for watching with me, guys. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you have an awesome, awesome day.